Hello everybody, welcome back to the Artisan of Glimmith. It's been a hot minute, so I had recorded everything up to this point before I went to London, and that was a week and a half ago. And then I came back from London and I was keeping on top of the other video series because they were getting more views, and now we're back to having a little bit of time on the weekend to record some of this, and basically I need to slow down and identify things that are definitely true in these new mechanics that I have been not having as much success with. And so the camera's here, we will start here. So, Bricky, there cannot be a point where four borders meet. Boxy, all regions are rectangular, and area number shows the area of a region. So, oh, this is changed. How? Okay, use auto palette. That's fine. This is either going to be this or this. So we know these are true. And Bricky. So there cannot be points where four borders meet. So where can I find logic in this? It's a great question. Four borders. We don't have a lot of straight lines, which is interesting. Like, this can't do that. So if it were to do this with these kind of like lines on alternates, that is valid. So that means that can't go there. Right, so this breaks us into a problem in this corner. So I knew this was not going to be a solution, but I needed to kind of work out where problems were going to arise that I could try and find somewhere to break into the puzzle, because with this, I don't currently have kind of a line of logic to say, okay, here's all the beats I want to hit. And that's a problem. That is a problem. So it's either this or this. I don't think it can be this, because that, okay, that makes that corner invalid. So that is that. Put a box around it. So that can't exist. That must come down. That can't exist. That must go across. And that must be boxy. So that goes across there. All right, we found our break in to the puzzle. That can't come down like that, so that has to go across there. That has to be boxy, so that must come down. Then we can't do that. This cannot do this and this, so one of them has to reach outwards. That seems like possibly the best version of this. But what seems like is not how we do things around here anymore. We have a changed perspective on things. So that is how that goes. These cannot be the same because it has to be boxy. So this can either come out longer or make a square. It can't make a square because that's not valid. Therefore, we know this can't exist. And if this can't be a box, then that line must be true. It makes that line true because this is boxy. These can't exist. That can't exist. So I think we get to this as must be. So where can we go from there? It's a great question. We can't do that. We can't do that. Okay, this line can't exist, so we can start with this. That's good. If things have to be boxy, we can't have this be a different color to this. So, excuse you. All of this is going to become a group. We can't have that doing that, so I think this has to come across to stop that line being a problem. That makes you a box. Okay. This line can't come down, so that has to come across. That has to be its own. Then what can we do else with what's left? We previously discussed that this would be viable, except down here at the bottom now we see that that's not. Nice. Okay. We found the logic, we didn't make assumptions, and we got to where we needed to be. Very happy. Let's try and rally off that momentum. Bricky, Solitude, and Palisades. What can we know for sure? Great question. Things don't have to be square anymore. Each region contains a single symbol. So that means that there are 3 regions, right? We can't have this existing on its own. So this has to exist with this. And that's going to have to get an L shape on one of its 2 sides, either that way or that way, which means this line must exist, and this is a different color to it. Okay. This piece here can't do that because that makes a failed bricky. Can't do that because that makes a failed bricky, so it's going to be this and... oh, not that. So that makes a failed bricky. So it has to be this corner. It doesn't have to grow out in both ways. Yes, it does, because the palisade symbol says that it does. Okay, cool. Progress. I'm going to change the color of this a bit so that we can see that it's different to this rather than thinking it's all going to meld into one. Now, this can't go around like that because this has to be a different color. So I'm beginning to wonder if this might be quite a small area. Okay, wait. Because of this corner and this corner, we have to do that because any other edge makes a cross. So that's coming out to there. And now we have to figure out how to color in the rest of all of this, which is going to be interesting. Now, we also have to remember that there is a unique solution. So something says that this has to be a version of that instead of this or this. There's some differentiating factor that's going to impact how that goes. So once again, We are looking for logic, not for just colouring in and hoping we get to the best. So, how do we colour in more of what we've got? Things must be bricky, so we can't have 4 corner edges. We know this is a different colour to that. And where do we go with that information? That's a great question. The real thing I'm trying to wonder is how much of a single colour can we make just kind of work out? So if we look at these 2 tiles here, this tile cannot belong to this because of the wall rule, and this cannot belong to this because of the wall rule. So we can't get this to stretch up to there, and we can't get that. I mean, we could get that to stretch down to here, hypothetically, but this can't go that way, and this can't go all the way around here because it's the same color on its backside. So that makes me wonder how we resolve this without using these 2 zones. Now I can't bring that to there. So that can come out this far. Could come out further. Okay. I totally lost sight that this has to go one way or the other. And hold on. How did I miss this? We know that this is going to take that. And we knew that this is going to have an L, and that was a different color, but we can't do that piece there. So we must do that there, which then helps me realize how we don't end up having a weird conflict of this meeting this on this side. But that now begs the question to me, what color is all of this stuff? To mean that, like this crosses that side, this crosses there, and this crosses there. What colors are going to be on the backside of all of this stuff? You know? Because this can't loop around on itself. This can't loop around on itself. This can't loop around on itself. So, if these lines are all fixed and solitude exists, what are we using to color, say, like this square? Okay, well, this square can't belong to this and can't belong to that, so it must belong to this. Which means, if this can't go that way around, it has to, in some capacity, do that. And then, is this just doing the rest? Nice! Love that. Love that we just got there. Who knew that stopping, taking a moment, thinking about it, could result in stronger puzzle solving? Right, we have a shape bank, bricky, and polyomino. This feels like it shouldn't be too bad. So this line must exist. It could be this, it could be this, it could be this. Let's start with what we definitely know, which is those. Which means, I believe, this tile has to be a single oneer, as does that tile, because we can't fit a 2x2 or a 3x3 in those gaps. So then we have to build out the rest. Like, we can't have a line here, so those two are the same color. The same goes for these and these and these. This can't be a 3x3, but this must exist, so that must be that. And therefore we have 3 points here, so that must exist. And if that exists, then it can't be a long line, so it must take on this. That makes that and that a 1, which means that must exist. It could be part of this 3x3. That must be a 2x2. If this were a 2x2, that would be a 1 and a 1. That can't be. Therefore, I think that has to be true. We get that line. That grows to be a 3x3 to stop this having extra branching parts of it. That has to be a 2x2 just because of the limitations in its size. This can't do that because it blocks this in, so that becomes that. That has to cross the boundaries of that. That's a single, which means we do that and that. Then is it? No, it's not that. That has to exist. Is it this? Oh, you can't. There it is. Just had to finesse the ending a bit. Good. Shape, bank, and bricky. Who knew that taking a week and a half off and reframing your mindset to stop making the same mistakes you've been making for what is probably about, Jesus, 40 hours? Where, like, turning the game on today, it was 43.6 hours. Now, I'm sure some of that was, like, idle time while I got up and did other things, but still, a lot of time spent in this. 1s and 2s. Okay. Where do we begin? Here, probably. That can't be that. So these can't be 1s. But either of them could be 2s, right? Okay. Let's start with this. That can't be a 1 and a 1. So that could be a 1 and a 2, which becomes its own problem, doesn't it? I concede. That was vibes-based solving, but it was fine. I'm not doing that today. Shape bank, bricky. That is a ugly looking shape bank. Is that valid? Because I don't know how else I'm putting those shapes in there. This is a 5 and that's a 10. So hypothetically, it could be that way as well. With this big solid line here, I don't know how that impacts everything else. So obviously this is correct. Oh, because if we did this side as, what was the other option? This shape, then that ends up with the 4x4. Lovely. Right, how many are we at for this window? One more to silver gild it. Well, that'll be a nice thing to have achieved today, won't it? What are you working with? Bricky, maximum 3, palisades. Maximum 3 tells me something very nice about these pieces, that they must go vertical, I believe. So that tells us some other stuff. That's fine. Those must connect, which means that caps off there. That can't be a four-way cross. That can't be a four-way cross. Oh, hold on. I have regrets. Maximum 3. If this were to do this, that has to reach out to there and there. Oh, okay, no. I can do a horizontal and a vertical in combo here. So I need to reevaluate all my thought processes on the start of this level, because the very first thing that I thought wasn't true. But I'm glad we caught it. Okay, this guy here. We've seen this before. We can't do that. We can't do that. We can't do that. So we must do that. You must color into this and this. And that is a max 3 because of our maximum 3. Which means this can't be a line and that can't be a line. So that is a 3 box right there. That means this must exist because that can't be a line. And I think that has to be a 3 box because this line, this can't exist. This can't exist. This can't exist. That can't exist. And knowing that means that then if that can't exist, that has to be 3 that way. Which means how did I screw this up? What? Is what I have said not true? So we started with, you must exist that way. You gain that and that tile because that's how your palisade works. That lets us cap you off and you off because we have a max 3 rule. We can't have this wall. We can't have this wall. So we can't do that as a 2. That must be a 3. Put a box around it. We can't have that wall. We can't have that wall. We can't have that wall. That must exist. We can't have this line. That must exist. I can't do that because that would be more than 3. Okay, I'm gonna... That feels like it has to exist there, but I can't pass it out to be further in the stage yet. So let's do this one because that can't exist. Then what else? Maximum 3s. That exists. This becomes the problem. Because I can't do that. Can't do that because that gets to 4, but we can't do that. So I'm a little bamboozled here. I guess I can do it that way. It has to be that way. I don't know why I thought this couldn't be the other way around. Okay. Where else do we go with that? That can't be there, so that has to be there. You have to come out in this direction. It can't be a 3, a 2, and a 1. So I think that's just a 2, a 2, and a 2. Then we carry on to the right. That has to exist because of this point. And we just keep moving along. That's either that or that. What's going to tell me that one of those two things can't be true or not? Well, we can't do this. No, we can do that. Okay, we can't do that. So this can't make a cap there or there with that existing, which means that's horizontal. That's a single. This has to come out, which puts that there. That has to be a group because of this point. Then how do we finish this off? Just like that. Lovely. And we got our silver bricky. Do I even dare think about what the new mechanic is going to be up here? Loopy. There cannot be a point where exactly 3 borders meet. I don't want to even try and conceive of that right now. We have more puzzles available to us here. It's like all of these that weren't around before. Nothing in that tower, nothing in that tower. Couple hiding back here. Couple of 2s. I could take a couple of 2s. Bricky area numbers. 1. That must add to that, which must gain that. Those must exist together. You're either picking up this or this. Can't pick up that because that becomes a cross, so you pick up that. Those are together. That must be together. Oh, that must all be one big group. Can I do 3 and 5? I can. Using shift-click to outline completed regions can help reveal contradictions. Okay. Shapebank bricky polyomino. Well, I know I can't do this. So we get that. That can't make a cross there. So I think this has to do this so that that and that can exist. And then that has to exist. Could come all the way down. But it could be that. No, can't be that. There's 10 left, which is 3, 2, 2, 2. But this has to come out to here. That has to come out to there. How do I get these pieces to exist as bricks of 3 or 2 in this method? can't have the 1 on the end. Have I made some mistake up to this point? Because it feels like I can't make 3s and 2s exist with this hook here. So this I like. That and that have to... Oh, this could come over to here. That's probably it. So then that's going to be... How are we going to do this? You have to come out to there. Two, 2, 2, 3. It was that line there that I had erroneously placed. 3, 4. Take a 3. I'm going to also probably not go to... Oh my god. Probably not go to kind of the hour and a half long videos I had been doing, because we don't have the really neat chapter markers that we kind of had for the first several areas where I could kind of sit down and brute force my way through a full area. Okay, so that's getting that for rose windows. We also have bricky and boxy, which is intriguing. It's only a difficulty 3, so I shouldn't read too hard into things feeling like they're going to be really tough. This can't do that, so that just has to be a box. That and that have to be a box. We just don't know who's going to pick up the extra piece, I think. Bricky, boxy, rose windows. Okay, so that means this and this and this need... Can't do that because they need to have a rose window. So I believe that shape must be this. This blue has to get a red, which has to be that. We can't have this line exist. So it can't be this. It would instead have to be that plus a top and a bottom, which is going to have that and a top and a bottom. Which means that has to go sideways and is a complete unit. Nope. Because how does this go up and get that while being boxy? That's a horrendous problem. Okay, well, my thought process somewhere along the line must be incorrect, I suppose. This has to go upwards to be boxy and to get a rose window. This can't do this and this. Oh, okay. That's going to get to there, I presume. That has to go all the way down because that has to take that. That has to take that. I'm sure this line is going to depend a lot on how this resolves, which I think has to be that for boxiness, which means we can't do this. We must do that. That blue can't take any other red. This tile could do that. Not too much left here. Can't be too bad. We can't do those there, which is going to have a lot of an impact on what we can and can't do. This is going to have to pick up a blue and a red. But if it did this, then that ends up there. Oh, that is viable. That is viable. That's not viable. I also can't do this one here. So, take that back. Where was my actual... Okay, those two must be together because we can't come off of this point. Which means you must take that tile and that tile, put a box around it. you could hypothetically do that. So it's not a given that this exists like this, especially because that can't exist. If that can't exist, then that seems much better. Nice. All right, I'm gonna take that good high note and keep the episodes a little shorter. I'm sorry for those of you that love the really, really, really long episodes, but I'm gonna try and keep my brain reasonably fresh and happy rather than like dragging myself through the doldrums of tough puzzles and then just getting myself so stuck I can't see any path forward. But I feel like I've had a good little reset, good progress for now. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.